Hey everyone, thanks again for joining us today. My name is Fernando Corona, one of the hosts of the Sage Executive Podcast. With us today, we've got a special guest, and I'm excited to present him. So without further ado, please share with us who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Stuart Kruse. I run a boutique asset management firm called Kruse Asset Management. And we basically make decisions based off of statistics and data. So I don't use my gut or my feelings to kind of help people with their biggest decisions of their life, their nest egg that they built up over their entire lives.
And just going off of that, is that different than some other advisors out there that might be using their gut, or what are the tools that you're leveraging now where it's easier for you guys, or it's better as a boutique type of management firm?
So most advisors, they are relationship builders, which is great. But their strength is on the relationship and not so much on the finance side. And oftentimes they will outsource a lot of their financial decisions, and they outsource it to a mutual fund. But what we know about mutual funds is 60 to 80% underperform every single year. So that's not often the best option. Now, it's a better option than most do-it-yourselfers because do-it-yourselfers actually do much, much worse in general. So what I've been able to do is leverage data because it's a lot more available to help make better decisions. So it's not based off your gut. And mutual fund managers will tend to make investments based off decisions in committee, where you get a bunch of smart people in the room making a bunch of decisions, trying to outsmart a bunch of other smart people in a different room. And so I tend to use the data so you remove your biases out of the whole equation.
And in your program, are you saying that you can actually reference and say, hey, listen, okay, this is how mutual funds have been performing, and then this is how we've been performing over the past however many years? Is that something that you actually call out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely point to that on my website about how your people are tending to pay for underperformance. And if you just were to buy an index, you would tend to outperform all the mutual fund managers out there. And so mostly because of the fees associated with it. But then people get antsy, and when things like coronavirus come around, then they get panicky and start selling, and they end up making far worse decisions than, let's say,
if they had somebody helping out. Yeah, exactly. All right. No, thank you. Thanks, Stuart. So question number 2, what is the best part about being a leader?
I thought about this question for a while, and it's a lot in the news, and I'm not going to make necessarily a political statement, but I think leaders are very responsible for shaping the conversation. So they can bring conversations and thoughts and questions to play that maybe somebody who's not necessarily a leader would feel uncomfortable bringing to play. And then they can shape those conversations in hopefully a place that makes the world a little bit better than before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just going off of that, are there any top leaders that you would recommend be on the podcast?
Well, okay. I know this is a biased comment, but my wife is an amazing leader. She's actually, as we speak right now, she's at Wrigley Field. I'm out of Chicago. She's at Wrigley Field shooting a TEDx event that she's curated. It's her second one. And has 16 speakers and countless volunteers that she's mobilized and led through a pandemic and through, quite frankly, some riots that were going on right around the neighborhood, trying to keep people safe. And so she would be a phenomenal leader to have on your podcast, because she is exploring the discussions of the new ways of leadership, really, which and what I've been told it's been framed as like the old way was more white male, 50s, dominated, you do it my way, masculine, militant, top down. And the new way is much more collaborative, inspirational, rewarding, a flat organization, and then much more, not to be stereotypical, but more female dominated characteristics. And if dinosaurs like me don't kind of adapt, we're going to be left in the dust. And so she would be a great person to have on your show.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just talking to someone yesterday about servant leadership, and everything that you that aligns with the same thing. So yeah. That's another term thrown out there. All right, Stuart. So question number 3, or I guess in this case 4, I hear from other execs, other in the industry or just in different industries, sometimes acquiring new clients or in your case, I'm not sure if are you going for clients only or if you're going for advisors. I'm not sure there. But what are some challenges that you've found? And you can take that either way.
Yeah.
But some strategies that you've implemented and that you've found to be working.
Well, I'll address the clients, and I think every business, that's their number one goal, is to get clients. Without the clients, they have no business, right? It's pretty much business 101. But what I found, at least in my space, and then what I found also when I'm evaluating suppliers for myself, is the whole reason you are hiring somebody to do something is you lack a particular area of expertise. And so in my space, it's finance. So people are hiring me to be a financial expert, but then they have to evaluate me up front on my financial expertise, which
Yeah.
is pretty hard to do. So if I'm hiring, pick a doctor, let's say, I have to decide which doctor is better than the other guy. And I'm not a doctor, so it's really hard for me to evaluate. So oftentimes we end up going off of things that we know, things that are easier to evaluate, which is why, like, you'll see some studies that the number one reason cars are bought is because of the number of cup holders that they have. And that's because I know that if one car has 8 cup holders, that must be better than 7 cup holders. So I can evaluate that.
No way. That is
Yeah.
not a thing. Are you
It just
serious?
is. Yeah. I'm not sure if that is actually in today's numbers, but it was, a little while ago. Like if certain demographic were trying to evaluate something, that would be it.
Yeah, that one's got another extra cup holder back in the back
Yeah.
seat. Yeah, you're right. Let's
I
do
can
it.
evaluate that, right? Is the guy wearing a tie? Is he not wearing a tie? Does he have long hair or not have long hair? I can't hire a financial advisor with long hair because that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
well,
whether he's
at that point, it's really what they say, right? Like people buy off of feelings and that type of behavior as opposed to logic.
right.
Uh,
So
so
you
then,
have to,
what
yeah.
I was gonna say, so what would you say then, to somebody, to a doctor or to a lawyer, or whoever that is seeking a financial expert, what are some easy, maybe not easy, but some metrics that they can actually start to measure advisors by?
That's a really interesting question. So um, I have experience with people that have gotten out of, let's say, my wife and I got married. We took dance lessons. My former dance teacher couldn't run his dance studio. It went bankrupt. So he became a financial advisor. His whole career was dance studio. So he's very personable.
Yeah.
Now here's me. I have a MBA in finance and CFA degree and engineering background. I'm very numerical, but we hold the same title. So maybe you look at some qualifications, some educational background, not just whether you like the guy or not. How much experience does he have? What kind of clients does he serve? What are his philosophies? These are some important questions you might want to ask
Yeah, certifications that he holds, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
And then, so let's say you move past that now. Do you hold, do you take into account maybe the assets under management? Is that something that they disclose? Do they take into account what they've been able to perform at, for the past 5 or 10 years? How do you get a little more detail into that?
Yeah, so it's a tricky question. So assets under management, I'm a small boutique firm, but I only service clients with, let's say, somewhere between $1 to $10 million. And so if you came to me and said, I've got $200,000, I might not take you as a client. And if I did, you might not actually be that important to me, just as a hypothetical.
Yeah, this is a hypothetical, by the way, for anybody listening.
Hypothetical, yeah. So if you were too big, then maybe the guy doesn't have enough experience with all your problems. Let's say you have $50 million and you say, hey, you usually run with guys that have 2 million. You're probably not as familiar with my kind of problems. So you probably want to ask what kind of clients you serve. And you want to be probably in the upper end of that range, but not too high, right? And as far as performance goes, that is a tough question. Most advisors will really downplay their performance because my clients will come to me with a variety of different criteria. Some will say, I'm super conservative. I just can't lose more than 10% of my portfolio, no matter what happens. And some will say, put the pedal to the metal. As long as long-term I'm outperforming, I don't care how much risk we take. And to understand that kind of performance or those kind of details, usually a normal retail client won't quite get that mix. They'll just say, how'd you do? What you really want to do is make sure the person is listening to your goals and understands and maps out a good detailed plan on how they can help you reach your goals, which is
Yeah.
really the most important thing that you have, right?
And that they have experience doing that.
Right.
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 So absolutely.
It's
All right. No,
yeah, it's
thanks,
tough if I
Stuart.
have 1 year and I come out and you're going to turn over 30 years of work to a guy who's only had 1 year of experience and say, hey, help me get to the promised land. And it's going to be a tall order for them,
All right.
even
All
if they're
right.
trying their best.
So going, so let's move on right now. That was all good. The next question I got for you here is what, and this is an opportunity for you to share, your 30 years or so, right? However many years with the other people that are just starting out, or maybe with other execs out there. Or, what kind of sage advice would you pass on?
Yeah. Um, as far as leadership goes, I don't know if it's sage, but I'll give you one man's opinion. And so I once upon a time taught a leadership class at a graduate school here in Chicago. And one of, I guess, the most profound things that I could teach my students is there's a big difference between leadership and authority, right? I can have authority over you because I'm your boss, but that doesn't mean, and you might have to follow me because there are repercussions of losing your job or basically because you're fearful, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm leading you anywhere. And
Hmm.
so leadership comes when you're doing things, even if it's not required, right? And you're following them even when it's not in some sort of fearful manner. So those are two big distinctions. And so I'd ask, if you are a boss or an executive, are you leading or do you just have authority? And maybe
Hmm.
you are fine with just having authority right now. And maybe you're okay with shooting fear and yelling at people and doing that. And that helps you get the job done. But probably better would be if you led them and people followed you anyway.
Hmm. Yeah. Because and that goes into like the being, when you're a true leader, you're also building other leaders.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
You're,
right.
you're you're not afraid to hold on to, all the secret sauce or anything like that. And it's like take credibility, right?
Right. So I'll tell you, whenever somebody comes and works for me, I almost always give them this kind of little spiel. I'll say, look, if you're here forever at my company or you leave in the next quarter or 6 months and you find a better job that suits you better, I'm happy for you. If I'm not happy for you that you're not growing and you can't come to me and say, look, I found this amazing opportunity. I really appreciate it. You were a stepping stone. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It makes me proud that you moved on and you did something better. And if you're in an environment where somebody does not feel that way about you and is hyper protective about where you're going and is not trying to advance you, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. All right, Stuart, thank you. The last question, this is a little fun question, right? This is an opportunity for you to tell us either how you celebrate with your leader wife or how you celebrate with your team. What do you do after a win? And, how do you classify a win? And what kind of goes from there?
Yeah. So I suck at this. Just to be frank,
At
I'm not,
celebrating?
yeah, I'm good at celebrating if I beat you in a game of volleyball, but I'm not really good at celebrating if I, do something good in my business. And that
Hmm.
is a mistake I mean to rectify. So I think any thought leader today would say you should celebrate your wins, celebrate with the team, help them, basically give praise where praise is due. And sorry, my phone is actually running. Can you believe it? So give praise where praise is due and celebrate. And I think I've been really bad at that. So I think I was going to ask you, what are some methods that people celebrate? What are some ways I can start today?
Let's see. I mean, I've had people say they celebrate by just picking up some wine, kicking off their shoes, putting on the TV. I've had others say that they get together with their team and everybody has like a little party, and
Yeah.
some virtual happy hours. I think I celebrated with our partners and team members. We had like a virtual happy hour,
Yeah.
and we just chatted and had conversations about some business, but just anything and everything. It just really broke the some business barriers, and we're able just to connect on a human level. So
So
I guess I would go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I had an idea about what I could do. So a win for me is getting a new client, right? Getting a new kind of right size client. And that's a big deal. I work with about 50, 60 families. I don't need like hundreds of clients. So if I get one solid client every periodically, that's a pretty big deal for me. And I like it. So maybe the one way you can celebrate is do some sort of random act of kindness, paying it forward somehow, picking something which you can do, you know, as opposed to being about me. I don't really need to have a night watching TV or open a bottle of wine. It would be more like, what can I do that makes me bring people in to celebrate with me? So that might be something, trying to figure out a way to pay it forward or do some random act of kindness.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I think that is good. So Stuart, if
Right? Not
if
just when I win.
others go ahead, what?
I said I should be doing it anyway, not just when I win, but
You
yeah.
should. And talk, ask your team, hey, how do you guys want to celebrate after we
Yeah,
kind of do this?
that's a good
So I'm
idea.
curious to see what they say.
That's a good
Okay,
idea.
Stuart, this closes up the round. Thank you so much for being on. How can people get a hold of you? How can they learn more? What do you suggest they go?
Yeah, my LinkedIn profile is at cruiseam.com. And you can go to my website, Stuart Kruse. I'm sorry, it's www.cruiseassetmanagement.com. And I have a YouTube page, which is YouTube/Stu Kruse, STUKRUSE.
What do you share on your YouTube page?
Well, I do financial analysis, or I'll do like not so much stock tips, but where the market's headed and what I think what you should be doing with some of your money. There's some financial 101 pages, like what is a stock, what is a bond. Some people don't know what those things are. I've got clients that actually go on CNBC every week, and I've got clients that literally don't know what a stock or bond is, and they're afraid to ask because it's too remedial. And so if I just put it out there, they can look it up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, there you go, everybody. So you can find him on LinkedIn, get him on his website, or check him out on YouTube if you're learning some financial principles.
Yeah.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Sage Executive Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Fernando.